Welcome to Escapist. We got comic books. We got everything you want. And we know what cooks. We're the people that can find you whatever you may need. If you got the money, honey, we got your disease.
That was really great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, I wrote that.
You nailed it. You wrote that?
I wrote that.
No fucking way.
I'm a writer.
Whoa. 3 writers on a podcast?
Welcome back to the Absolute Ultimate Escapist Comics Podcast. This is episode... I don't know what's going on over there. This is episode...
11, 12?
No, 14.
14, wow.
666.
Look, I know how to read, but I don't know how to count.
Episode 14 of the Absolute Ultimate Escapist Comics Podcast. We've got some comics news that Persephone's going to share with us today from ComicsPro. We're going to talk about a few new books.
Oh god, my phone made a sound.
Including friend of the pod, Absolute Martian Manhunter, and the newest Vertigo title. Let's get right into it.
Alright, so, a little bit for comics news. ComicsPro news, DC had a really good turnout this year. They announced The Dead Man by the team who did Kryptonite Spectrum. Super fucking hype about that. New Teen Titans got announced. Kyle Higgins, and I'm forgetting the artist, I need to look it up. Barbara Gordon, it's Tamaki, and I need to also look up that artist, but it's Barbara Gordon breaking out of jail. It's going to be a prison break Barbara Gordon story, so that's cool. They also announced a Doom Patrol, but with no team. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to place money on that being Dennis Camp and Javier Rodriguez. Because Camp was talking online, because the solicits got released, and they were talking about how Martian's last issue was going to be 12, and they said that they had been told that they could do as much as they wanted to do of Martian, and that they want to do more Martian, but DC offered them both something they couldn't refuse. And with the Doom Patrol announcement being slid in there, and also what book would Camp and Javier Rodriguez be doing but Doom Patrol? Makes perfect sense to me. That said, I'm gonna miss my little green guy. He's my boy. But he's hopefully gonna be back at some point. On to Marvel. Marvel kind of just farted into the mic mainly. They announced that there's gonna be a Jay and Silent Bob crossover. And that's kind of the extent of what they announced, to be quite honest with you, other than like kind of hyping up Armageddon, but again, not in a way that it's not really intelligible to me what Armageddon actually is, or is, like, why I should care.
Yeah, Marvel's getting its ass kicked by DC right now.
Looking through the Marvel solicits was really embarrassing, because if you look through the May solicits, it's the first month without any Ultimate stuff in it, and it was painful.
I mean, the cover is King in Black.
Yeah.
It's not very inspiring.
It's really depressing.
Momoko's Queen in Black was cute, though.
That's true. She did do a cover for it, and honestly, the way that woman is, like, carrying the entirety of Marvel on her shoulders...
Yeah.
They should be paying her $1 billion.
I really hope they give her another series after Ultimate X-Men. I would just be so bummed if they were just like, okay, back to covers with you.
Yeah.
Watercolor freak.
Yeah. It's a real bummer. If Marvel's gonna fumble her, then I hope somebody pays her money to do good shit. Because I just can't imagine fumbling Peach Momoko, but that's just me. There was a bunch of Image announcements. Moving on to Image, I kind of forget most of them. There was a Chris Condon, Charlie Adlard project. Robert Kirkman's back on Cape shit.
What Cape shit is he doing?
He's doing a book called Terminal.
Yeah, I saw that.
It looks fine.
Yeah, I think that Kirkman does not excel at cape stuff. I think his best stuff is like very much not capes.
Yeah.
Like Outcast, Oblivion Song. I did really like not Fire Punch. The fire one.
Yeah, that's
the
Firepower.
Firepower, yeah.
Not unrelated to Fire Punch. Fire Punch is the Wario to Firepowers.
Yeah, the dark side of the coin. I liked Firepower a lot. I mean, it was like really sweet and goofy, but I enjoyed that. Kind of like what Iron Fist should be.
Yeah.
If he weren't like an appropriative white guy. I mean, Walking Dead is super good. I mean, I say that he's not very good at the Capes shit, but I mean, Invincible is obviously like a masterpiece of Capes comics. But like, I think every time that he does Cape stuff after that, it doesn't really have the same punch, you know? Because I think Invincible is not an homage to those 90s original Image partners, but I feel like all of his other Cape stuff very much is, you know? And that's like not what I want from anyone, including those Image partners. You know, I don't want to read Robert Kirkman doing like Savage Dragon or like Youngblood fan fiction.
Yeah,
you know, I'd rather that he do what he's really good at.
Yeah, we do keep returning to the well with old men kind of returning to their well, and at least Kirkman's doing. Not more. Well, no, he is actually going to be doing more Invincible stuff. Actually, that's the other announcement. He's doing some Invincible. He's like introducing a character who's part of Invincible Versus or whatever. Similarly to Marvel, Image is also for the most part not producing almost anything of interest, with some exceptions, like obviously assorted crisis events. They did also announce a Darcy Van Polgeest graphic novel not related to Little Bird or Precious Metal, like seeming to be a more like down-to-earth, like grounded, painted graphic novel, which is just the complete opposite end of the spectrum from the like the high concept, like very, very gory, very like very, very just like bizarre world that like that Little Bird and Precious Metal are in. So that'll at least be interesting. Marguerite Bennett and James Tynion are doing a book called Odin, which is going to be a 9-issue miniseries about like white supremacist cults.
I mean, that sounds good.
That one sounds good, yeah. I'm excited about that one. There's going to be like a Texas oil crime thriller called Of the Earth that Chris Condon and Charlie Adlard are doing. Lorenzo Di Felici is doing Red Roots, which is going to be they're one of the artists who did some of the Something is Killing the Children spinoff. I forget what that book is called, the Book of Butcher stuff. A real brief bummer announcement in there is that where is this? They're publishing Jason Latour again. I don't know for anybody who's familiar with this. Jason Latour was the artist on Southern Bastards. He did a lot of really good art. Unfortunately, he's also a sexual harasser and sexual assaulter. He, in 2018 or 19, kind of around the time Warren Ellis got outed for being a piece of shit, Jason Latour got outed for sexually harassing and assaulting multiple women in the industry, many of whom left. He kind of went into self-imposed exile for a little while. It seems he's trying to creep back, and Image thinks it's being real fucking slick, going to publish some of the Substack stuff he was doing. I don't know why Image thinks it should be fucking doing this. Like, that guy can have his Substack, whatever. I'm not saying he should be exiled from making art on his personal website. Like, whatever. But Image doesn't need to be publishing, like, a serial sexual harasser and assaulter just because they think that we've, like, forgotten. And it doesn't matter how good his art is.
There's plenty of really good artists and writers that they could be publishing.
Yeah, they actually, speaking of that, a couple of the people who spoke on him, I forget who they are, but one of them gave or like reposted a statement from one of his victims who said that like she hasn't touched a comic in years. She got pushed out of the industry. She hasn't even been able to read comics in years because of what he did, and now they're trying to fucking publish his goofy ass again. Like, absolutely fucking not. I know Tyler Crook and Joey Esposito both spoke out against him after Image made this announcement. Thank you to Crook and Esposito for having any fucking backbone and memory. A rare thing these days, apparently. But yeah, Image is trying to publish him for some fucking reason. Either they're publishing garbage or they're publishing like technically good material by a piece of shit who should not be doing anything. But that's kind of it from Image. There was a couple of other announcements. Kelly Sue DeConnick is doing grommets for girls, which I support. Because if anything, like, I couldn't care about grommets because it was clearly mostly about men and for men. Whereas, like, girl skateboarding book, always check it out. With Nacho Bustos, which will be exciting. Teenie Howard's doing a new thing with Ignition. I was talking to Corinne about this. As much as I'm excited about Teenie Howard and Emil Carpina doing kind of like a healthcare Doom Patrol was how they pitched it, which sounds pretty good and pretty fun.
Say healthcare?
Yeah, doing like a healthcare Doom Patrol. I don't know what that means, but I'm fascinated. Yeah, and I but it's Teenie Howard, so I tend to give her more I tend to be a little bit more interested in whatever she's interested in doing. That said, Ignition was kind of the distillery press this year, which is to say they were throwing around their money and mainly kind of talking about how many of their books are getting like movie deals and stuff, which is never a good sign if you're not interested in publishing books and instead publishing pitches for movies. Never a good sign. So hopefully Ignition ends up like not becoming the next distillery, but we'll sure see. And that's kind of most of it. Is yeah, DC had a good turnout. Marvel had kind of, and Image kind of had very little. Image had at least a couple things, whereas Marvel was just kind of a wasteland. Talks about Ignition, talks about Jason Latour. I think the last thing I'll mention is I'm just going to quote directly from Comics Beat here because I want to read more about this. But, quote, the Kickstarter project Young and Iran has been suspended by the platform over concerns the book was, quote, breaching sanctions on the country. Produced by the Sequential Artists Workshop in collaboration with 2 teachers in Tehran, Young and Iran features 32 graphic memoirs by local young cartoonists. I do need to read more about this, and I probably wouldn't otherwise spotlight it before I'd read more, but I do think it really does say something kind of about the state that we're in, where, like, 32 young Iranian people want to publish memoirs and Kickstarter will take them down because it breaches sanctions against the country, which is fucking insane. And really just kind of illustrates what sanctions foundationally are.
Get it? Illustrates?
Hey, really makes you think.
I don't get it.
I'll tell you when you're older.
Thanks.
I'll tell you when we're married.
Yeah. It's just a really bleak state of affairs that some young Iranian people want to put out a graphic memoir and can't because it might make American racists too angry. But you know, God forbid, like I'm just gonna gesture broadly at the things Kickstarter has allowed to be published over the years. But anyway, I think that's kind of about the comics news that I have to share. Other than, yeah, that Deadman and New Teen Titans look really good. Same with the Barbara Gordon. Oh, sorry, actually one last thing. There's going to be an Absolute miniseries in quarter 4 of 2026. They haven't announced who's doing it. They've said it's going to just be like self-contained, that you don't have to be reading other books to enjoy it. Hopefully My Girl Martian is left out of it. Yeah, that we'll hear more about that when it comes out. But
yeah, I'm curious how this story's gonna wrap up. I'm excited. I think that segues well into Absolute Martian number 9. We've talked a lot about Absolute Martian Manhunter, Dennis Camp, and Javier Rodriguez. This is still one of my favorite books on the shelf. This was a really good issue, especially kind of coming off of the sort of less action-packed I'm sad and I miss my wife issue that came before it. This one kind of got me in the pit of my stomach. I was feeling a lot of suspense, on the edge of my seat, like what's gonna happen to my guy, what's gonna happen to Marty, and John Jones. The art stays really beautiful. I feel like this issue explores and fleshes out a little more like what the other Martians kind of are to humanity, like the notion of this despair Martian, the blue Martian.
Where did the despair Martian come from? Is that a new character? Or is that someone I should know about?
So it's a new character, but it is a reversion of this old DC character called Despero.
Despero?
Despero, yeah. It's a reversion of a character named Despero. You don't actually need to know who Despero is to know this. Like, it's very, very loose. In earlier issues, they show... Actually, no, in issue 7, they show the... When the Martian's trying to explain to John what he is, there's that panel where it's like this beam of light hits this rock and refracts off, and the green and the white go in one direction, and the blue, red, etc. go off in other directions.
Oh, yeah. No, I actually just read something with Despero in it. Yeah, very different characters.
Yeah, extremely loose revision.
Yeah, Despero's like red in his original appearance. But I think there's a Despero appearance in JLU, in the most recent JLU.
That would make sense, yeah.
But basically just big muscle character in the original. But this is a very different interpretation of it. Much more interesting interpretation.
He's a sad boy.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells the truth. The hard truth.
The concept
or that's what he claims, at the very least.
The concept of despair, that little voice that tells you to throw yourself in front of the train.
Yeah, this is a dark issue, but I think it also hints at a very thrilling and maybe happy resolution to the story. This is like the first... I feel like this is like the first step into the true climax of the story.
That vivisection.
Yeah, I love the Operation Game through line throughout the whole thing. The art on this is stellar.
Unbelievable color work, as ever.
I feel like last issue Rodriguez didn't have a ton of space to like really shine with the really weird, crazy stuff, just because it was a more introspective issue. And this one, he's going full on crazy times.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I love the like pink-haired therapist with the braces. I don't know, it's art that feels like it's really like glowing, like it's really generating light from the page, which is just so cool.
Yeah.
You read this, Perl. What do you think, Dr. Perl?
What do I think about this issue? I feel so lost when I'm reading these books, honestly. I don't really know what's going on most of the time. I think it's really pretty, and I have a really hard time caring about John and what John's character is or what he's doing. I really like the alien.
I do think that's a critique that I also have about this book, is I struggle to fully get what's happening all the time.
Yeah, but it almost
doesn't matter, though.
Yeah, it's like by design.
Yeah.
There's things I don't understand, like I don't really know what the anti-life equation is, and I don't really know anything about the Martian. Maybe you don't need to know anything about the Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not sure we'll ever really get a good explanation for what the Martian Manhunter is.
I mean, even before this book, though, like I'm not that familiar with the character.
Oh, yeah. He's like Green Superman, but he can phase shift. Like, that's his character.
Shift.
And he's psychic.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know his power set, I guess, but
it's very different characters in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they're kind of honestly like wholly different characters. You could just like slap an Image logo on this and call it something totally different, and it wouldn't.
Yeah.
DC wouldn't be able to sue you.
Yeah. No, it's fast and loose with reusing these characters,
which is
for
good.
The absolute universe. Yeah, I don't think I'd want it any other way. I'm interested to see where it goes. I am thrilled by it. I think it's doing some of the most creative stuff in comics right now, and I can't look away. But I also do feel lost.
Yeah, I'm curious. I think this is one where like I will reread it in like collected form or something at the end of the year. and try and make more sense of it as one cohesive piece. Just because as it stands, like, I'm not rereading every issue when a new issue comes out, because that would be ridiculous, and I do really enjoy reading them in each issue, but part of me kind of feels like I want to have the space to read it as one whole continuous work.
Yeah.
And I feel like by the time the 30 days that it takes for a new issue to come out has passed, like, my brain is fading with what's going on in the last issue.
I know,
Yeah.
I'm so TikTok brained. I can't pay attention, and like the pages and the art are so kaleidoscopic. It's like you get lost. You kind of get lost in this book a little bit.
It's like watching like a Family Guy Subway Surfers hype edit, really, is what it's like.
Exactly like that.
I also just think, like Perl said, I do think it is by design. Like, I think camp doesn't want you to really fully understand what's happening, which is part of the kind of beauty of the work, is that it exists sort of on like another narrative plane from just action, you know?
Exactly.
And I think that's why the art is so magnificent too, because it really, really, really leaves the space open for Javier Rodriguez to just show off, honestly.
Absolutely. Like, you really don't need to know, like, what experience of super compressed quantum geometry, 10 trillion interpretations of Bob, impregnated with rainbow to rainbow, mind not, shape don't fit.
Yeah, my
Good
eyes
eggs.
glazed over on that part. I was like, okay.
And I think you really don't really need to know what that means. Like, it's a vibe, it's a tone, it's an energy.
Yeah, in a similar way to like when you read Vagabond or something, like,
Yeah.
you don't necessarily read all of the text during one of the sword duels or something. It's just like the art speaks for itself. You
Absolutely.
know?
And I think this issue specifically, or sorry, two things, I guess. One is that I think this arc, more than the first one, is more like obviously a continuous story, whereas the first arc, it is a continuous story, but each issue is like so its own story that like it was easier to read in single issues, whereas like trying to pop in with this second arc issue by issue makes it a little bit more confusing because it's just not as immediately clear.
Yeah, I would say like don't jump in on the series on this issue.
Yeah.
Like, find the first trade. I don't know, read it online. Like, do whatever you need to do to like read the whole series. This is not a series where you want to just like hop in halfway through. This is not Spider-Man.
No.
You will not know what's going on.
Yeah. And even more so in this issue than any other, like it's mimicking on to some degree like the breakdown of time and memory that happens during psychosis. And so like it's hard to like situate yourself during a certain section of this book because you're like, wait, what exactly, like, is he in this physical space? Is he or is he not here? He doesn't even know.
I mean, honestly, jumping into this issue, if you didn't know that it was a superhero comic and thus supernatural, you could be forgiven for mistakenly believing that he just is schizophrenic.
Yeah. And I'm very curious.
Okay.
We started back?
Yeah.
Okay. We get little glimpses of kind of something that's been hinted at, and we still don't really get a clear answer on that, but something that's been hinted for a while, that his move to, I forget, is it Midway? It's not Hub. It's one of the DC cities, but it's not Metropolis or Gotham. It's one of them cities. And why he moved here from DC. We get like a little glimpse of that. We still don't really have a clear answer, but it's kind of the first time we've really gotten like some indication of what happened or what may have happened.
Yeah, little hints, but for this, like, we've gotten little like references to him being transferred and the fact that he kind of never explained why.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first time that we're getting like real character backstory, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
And this is not like a particularly character-driven story. This is a very kind of conceptually driven story.
Mm-hmm.
But at a certain point, you do start to need to know things about your characters, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting here, too, because, like, in most cases, an FBI agent is not usually the most, like, especially for, like, a writer like Camp, who writes pretty for lack of a better word, let's just say leftist, even though that's laughable. But like writes stories with like a
radical.
Yeah, he writes stories with like a radical bent. And so making your protagonist like an FBI agent is a choice, and like one that I was always interested in what he was going to do with, because like that, it just felt like something that just like was being like held in chest a little bit, and we're starting to get little glimpses of that kind of like what it means for your protagonist to be like an emotionally withdrawn FBI agent, and the little glimpses we get here are at best concerning to actively scary in one moment in the office.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something interesting too about like the contrast between what we think of as kind of this like cold, calculating force of like the police and the FBI, and this like very emotionally withdrawn character being forced into a situation where he has supernatural levels of empathy for people is really, really interesting. This is a really solid issue. I'm sad that it's ending, but I'm also like glad that it's ending on their terms. I think most of the time with a series like this, it's better for it not to go on for 100 issues.
Yeah,
and I'm excited to see what they do next. I think it'll be really cool to, hopefully it's Doom Patrol.
God willing.
It would be really great if we got another really awesome, really crazy, weird, high concept Doom Patrol run. This was just a continuation of the excellent quality that all of the other issues have had before it, and hopefully an indicator of the final 3 issues as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of other comics that we're excited about, lines that we're excited about, the new Vertigo book from Chris Condon came out. Ezra Cain Mysteries. The Peril of the Brutal Dark, an Ezra Cain mystery.
A little bit of a mouthful, but
yeah. My guess is that it'll remain an Ezra Cain mystery, and then as the arcs change, the kind of like upper header will change. To describe this to you, it's the Peril of the Brutal Dark, an Ezra Cain mystery. This is Chris Condon and
Jacob Phillips.
Thank you, Jacob Phillips. My brain always wants to go to Sean Phillips. I was like, I think we were very critical of the last Vertigo issue from Kyle Starks with
Steve Pugh.
No, the title.
Oh, End of Life.
Yeah, we were very critical of End of Life. We weren't very impressed. Perl actively hated it. This is a return to form. This, again, we've discussed this a little bit, we've discussed it a fair amount, so I don't want to get too far into it, but this doesn't necessarily feel like it needs to be a Vertigo title, but it is a very good comic. It's the kind of comic that I have a real soft spot for. It's got like an Indiana Jones or like a Tintin thing going on. It's not really leaning as heavily into the noir as the promotional material kind of suggested that it would, and instead it's more of kind of it is like a period piece for sure. It's set in the kind of World War II era.
1941. So like right as the United States is getting into the war properly.
And very similarly to kind of the Indiana Jones classic plot, it's an ancient Greek artifact is discovered by the Americans as tensions are rising in Europe, and then it's stolen by the Axis powers. And it's got like a supernatural thing to it, kind of like the Ark of the Covenant. We don't really know like what it does, like what the supernatural element is yet. And then Ezra Cain gets swept up in it, and Ezra Cain's kind of your classic like hard-boiled private eye. He used to be a cop, and then he also used to be like a dog fighter, like an Air Force pilot in World War One.
Also an archaeology student.
Yeah, so he was an anthropologist before World War One, and he gets wrapped up in this mystery because the museum from which the artifact was stolen hires him, and we don't get like a real sense of him because it is only the first issue, but it seems like he's kind of more oriented towards helping the people that are going overlooked. So like at this point in time, it's like a lot of like Eastern European immigrants and stuff, people who are fleeing Europe for obvious reasons at the time,
and
coming to the U.S.
And something that's shown in the back matter, because Chris Condon loves to do this like textual back matter stuff, is he also is like the only. There was like a serial killer in Harlem, and he specifically talks about like the cops did not give a shit that like black people were being killed in Harlem, and I was the only one kind of willing to take that case at that time.
Yeah, he says he's like always the last resort or something. It reminds me of this like Chinatown detective comic that was coming out for a while.
Are you talking about The Good Asian?
Yeah, The Good Asian. Yeah,
it does remind me of The Good Asian.
It has some like Good Asian kind of stuff, but it's supernatural. It's got fantasy going on with it. I think it's really well written. I think the art's good. It's nothing like super revolutionary, but it's just really fun. And it's a genre that I really enjoy, and it's a genre that I'm not looking to be revolutionized. I think if you're a fan of, like, Indiana Jones or, like, Jurassic Park or something, or I think Tintin is the next example, or even if you just, like, really loved the Tintin movie that came out a while ago, this is a really good book for you. Yeah, this made me happy because I was worried that the Vertigo titles would get worse and worse. Is 100 Bullets next? Is that what's coming out next?
Oh boy. They did announce the schedule. Hold on, let me find it. They announced they did finally announce the release schedule. But while we look that up, yeah, I liked this issue quite a lot too. I similarly to you, I don't think it's. I don't know why it needs to be a Vertigo book. That said, it's very fun. I enjoyed it even more the second time, as I kind of just was like had my expectations modulated towards what it was, which is just like a really good Indiana Jones / 1940s Private Eye. You know, to briefly pop out of my thoughts on this book, just to jump to the release schedule question. In summer, we're getting 100 Bullets, The U.S. of Anger. Jesus Christ. Fanatic by Grace Ellis and Hannah Templer, and then I believe and then in the fall we're getting Fanatic, and then in the fall we're getting Necretaceous, which is the zombie dinosaur book by Tom Taylor and Derek Robinson. Looks fun, but and then also Black Tower, The Raven Conspiracy, which is the Rom V Mike Perkins joint, and then in the winter we're getting The Crying Doll by Mariko Tamaki and Rosemary Valero O'Connell, which is probably the one I'm most excited for. That
looks really cool. I'm hyped for that.
Extremely hype. And then A Walking Shadow by Simon Spurrier and Aaron Campbell. Both books which really show... Yes, we're going to get, the historical drama / it seems to be Ghost Story, The Crying Doll, and then A Walking Shadow, which is going to be Simon Spurrier and Aaron Campbell joining each other after leaving Hellblazer, or after working on Hellblazer together. I'm very excited about that too. We're going to have a good winter, I think. But yeah, that's kind of the next release schedule, so yeah, it seems to be that 100 Bullets is next. That said, back to talking about good comics. The Peril, the Brutal Dark, and Ezra Cain Mystery, ton of fun. Just a real blast. What does feel innovative about it feels also kind of like shockingly obvious, and I'm kind of surprised more stuff hasn't done it, like mixing the kind of Indiana Jones and the 1940s, Philip Marlowe Private Eye. I'm kind of surprised more things haven't done that. I'm sure other things have at some point, but I'm just kind of surprised it's not been more common. Yeah, this is a fun book, very well illustrated. We don't get a ton of a picture into who Ezra Cain is, as Tate said, but he seems like, broadly speaking, a nicer guy, less abrasive than this kind of detective often is. Yeah, we'll just kind of see from here, but...
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. It's just fun. It's not too dark and edgy. It's not too experimental. It's just fun reading, and I'm really glad that this was the newest Vertigo title.
Yeah, this is a good time. I got a couple more. I got a couple singles to talk about, and then a couple graphics to talk about. Next on to Absolute Wonder Woman, which I'll probably say the least about. Season of the Witch continues to be fantastic. Very funny that my girl Zatanna immediately nopes out of the story for this issue. She like uses Diana's magic to get herself free, and she's like, "All right, bye." She pops out. And then most of this issue, yeah, just continues to be really well written Wonder Woman stories. For those girls who are into giant women, you're gonna have a great time. This is a giant women story. Or this issue specifically is a giant women story where two women just continue to get bigger at each other. Many such cases.
She's always fighting that big lady.
Honestly, Giganta's not a character I'm like particularly familiar with outside of odds and ends appearances. She's not one of the characters that I know.
She's just like me for real.
She is a tall, busty ginger. Hold on. Giganta is not a character that I know a ton about, other than that she's like a tall, busty ginger. God bless her. Yeah, don't really know much about her, but I enjoyed her here. She's like nothing particularly revolutionary, but it's a fun fight between her and Wonder Woman. What's kind of more surprising is fucking Zatara shows up.
Huh.
In a really unsettling and frightening form.
Okay.
I'm very curious where they're going with that. I kind of didn't expect him to show up. Kind of didn't expect what happens next, and I'll not flip that page, but it's fucking crazy. Continues to be just a rock solid, really good book. Thank you, Kelly Thompson, for writing the one good Wonder Woman book right now. And just a spectacular book all around, really. Once Martian's gone, it's going to be the best of the Absolute line, and I'm glad it's going to be getting its roses, and I hope people are giving it its roses, because it's a really good fucking book. We're not going to talk about Be Not Afraid, other than to say that, like, because I'm still an issue behind, so I still need to catch up. But Be Not Afraid, really good, like, book about like what happens when you are a mom whose like son turns out to be like an angel, who's like mostly everyone in the town is afraid of him because he's kind of used to disassembling people. He's a nasty little psychopath, but in the way that like somebody who just like doesn't have any connection to human feelings might be. And so she's kind of trapped in this house with like her psychopathic like angel son and her mom, who is like dead, who is like actively rotting but kept alive by her son, and who's begging to be killed. It's pretty bleak. It's very gross, very like body horror, with painted art by Lissandro Esterin, who worked with James Tynion on Sandman Nightmare Country. It looks really good. I'm very excited to kind of see where Be Not Afraid goes, but I'm just, a couple issues behind, so I won't talk about it. And then the Ultimates 21. Really fun, focusing on abolitionist Luke Cage and his like army of former convict Avengers, all of whom are just like very fun little characters. Like this like a Wingspan spent most of her life confined to a 4x4 box, will never be confined again. There's a Ghost Rider riff in here named Penance, sold his soul to the devil for the cause, got hell's worst boy in the bargain, and he's just a Ghost Rider with a gun on top of Cerebus. It rocks. Very fun revision of the Defenders. There's a fun little bit here about the Defenders. The super team idea...
Yeah.
Team idea has legs, clearly. The public loves their heroes, almost as much as they love tearing them down, but I see room for improvement. A few $1 billion and an army of consultants later, we have found ways to broaden the appeal of the supergroup concept dramatically. Our heroes will be completely apolitical, for wild as possible appeal across all demographic groups. They will fight for truth and justice, concepts so vague and interchangeable as to be meaningless. They will stand for nothing and everything. People don't want lectures and ideology forced down their throat. They want straightforward, superpowered violence and color-coordinated costumes. The Ultimates may have done it first, but the Defenders will do its best. Now, smile for the cameras. And so, like, we're kind of getting this, like, The Ultimates has been a very politically forward book. Sometimes, like, maybe a little bit too, for lack of a better word, preachy. There's, like, definitely some times where it's, like, not as deftly executed as, like, Martian or Assorted Crisis Events or even 20th Century Men, which is very, very politically forward, does. And also, at the end of the day, it is also a Marvel book, so this critique is, like, anytime you do this kind of thing within like big publishers, there's like it inevitably is like the big publishers can produce books that are very forwardly prison abolitionist because Marvel doesn't have to care. It can publish anything and everything and it will still get money. That said, it is really cool to see a book where like the entire cast of Ultimates in this issue are just people who were convicts, like, formerly. And they've all been, like, given superpowers and their own ability to self-define themselves outside of the rules of that system. And also getting to the complicated question of, like, you know, what do we do when, like, you know, we've defeated these, like, Red Skull militias, you know, these, like, white supremacist militias. We've defeated, like, a bunch of agents of the state. We're not just, like, executing them. What do we do? Like, what's our alternative to jail? And this issue kind of starts to broach that. Like, I don't know if it really answers that, and I don't think it really can. That's if it could answer that, it wouldn't be a Marvel comic. But it is cool to see that kind of thought process being, like, postulated out on the page. And it's just a fun time. It's just a really fun bunch of very fun revisions of some classic Marvel characters, you know. I would like to see Penance continue. It was nice to see a version of Deadpool that specifically and intentionally does not talk. It was very nice to see Deadpool shut the fuck up. Emma Frost gets an appearance here that I rather enjoyed. It's a good issue. It's a good fun time. While it's kind of the least of Dennis Camp's projects, I think, it still continues to be, like, a broadly speaking very good book. Yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that. Are there any graphic novels you want to talk about? Because I want to talk about these two.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So first, I'm going to talk about Sunny Liu's The Art of Charlie Chan Hok Chi, which is just an incredibly, like, bold experiment mixing kind of like comics, documentary / fictional autobiography / art books / like essay about, like, the history of, or using the history of comics and manga to talk about, like, the history of Malay and Singapore and, like, the merger into Malaysia, and to kind of talk about Lee Kuan Yew and Lim Chen Song specifically, and to kind of talk about, like, how Singapore and Malay, like, removed themselves from, like, British colonial influence, and then, like, it just continues up through, like, 30 years of nation building and anti-communist fears. It's a very dense book. It's a very beautiful and ambitious book. And it does a lot of really interesting kind of stuff with, like, actual pieces of documentary work of, like, you know, here's a song sheet for I Love My Malay, with stuff that's, like, fictionalized versions of... There's fictionalized versions of Tintin, there's fictionalized versions of Karl Barks, there's fictionalized versions of The Dark Knight Returns, Tezuka's all over this, we'll talk more about that in a second. Yeah, it's just a really, really cool little book. I feel like I learned a lot. I didn't really know much of anything about Malaysia going into this book, and I feel like, obviously, I'm a white girl in California who just learned a little bit of information. I'm not any kind of expert, but I do feel a little bit more well-versed in this part of the world that I just didn't really have much understanding of. And I think it does a really good job of using comics history and the kind of, like, language and different developments of comics globally to express this like very complicated history in ways that were dense but digestible. Liu is also just like an extraordinarily good cartoonist. Often working in just like his own classic style, but making alterations to it to fit whatever specific thing he's kind of riffing on. His Tezuka riff is really rock solid. Yeah, it's just a gorgeous book. I think it's a very fun book, despite how dense it is. My kind of one maybe critique of it is that it's not a book that is at its heart that invested in its... Or I guess let me explain. So the premise of this book, The Art of Charlie Chan Hock-Chi. Chan Hock-Chi is a fictional comics artist out of Malai. And so this book kind of uses him to his career to explore this history. I don't feel like we get the most solid sense of who Charlie Chan Hock-Chi is. It does kind of appear, especially more towards the end, that like he is a writer who is writer and artist who's very frustrated with his lack of success, both within like the confines of Singaporean comics itself, and also just like as somebody who will always be kind of an outsider looking in, and who was like often censored, or at least trying to dodge the censors of the state, was never able to really bloom, and that kind of disappointment and failure ties very much into like the disappointment and failure around like the PAP and like the way that like the left wing kind of got disassembled and jailed so that basically neolibs could run the country. But other than kind of that, we don't always get he's kind of by design like a very stoic character who like events... He is a funnel for events to happen through and reflect and refract from there. And so he's not always... I do wish we were maybe a little bit more engaged with him as a person. I did feel often like a level of like, this is really good, and this is like just really good comics craft. This is really good storytelling. This is really good history. I did feel a little bit distant emotionally from it, but also not everything needs to be emotionally engaged in that way. And what we do get, especially later in the book, is good. So it feels like a weird critique to levy. Maybe that's just a me thing. But yeah, it's really good. It came out in 2011 it came out in 2015 from Pantheon Press. I've been meaning to read this for years, and kind of after...
It has an Eisner.
It did win an Eisner. It is very like the kind of thing that would win an Eisner in terms of like being bold, ambitious about comics in a very like foundational way. Very much reflecting on like the industry and its history and like the history of a nation. Like it is very much the kind of thing like the Eisners, when the Eisners are on, they do like to award. But it's a very good book. And Sonny Liu is an incredible cartoonist. Yeah, if you haven't read anything of his, he did work with Magdalene Visaggio on Eternity Girl. He did work with Mike Carey for My Faith and Frankie. He did the Malenki Robot. He did a Dr. Fate book with Paul Levitz at one point, which is a crazy looking book if you've ever seen that. Hi, just that book for you?
Yeah.
Oh, is that negative space? Oh, sorry. I saw the back and I thought it was something else.
While Persephone checks someone out, I do want to say...
Who's she checking out?
Only you, Queen. Only you.
That's right.
Someone... breaking news on something that we talked about earlier in the podcast. The Young in Iran Kickstarter campaign has relaunched. You can go to their page on the Sequential Artists Workshop website, which is sequentialartistsworkshop.org, to find all of the various tiers of support for them. Pretty cool comics. Yeah, go ahead and look at them. They've got like a big disclaimer. No money has or will ever change hands between SAW and any entities in Iran, so long as international sanctions are in effect. So they kind of worked out the legal stuff, and they have relaunched the Young in Iran campaign. So you can go support them now until March 22nd.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for bringing up more information on this campaign. I do want to like look more into this.
Well, I mean, I think they relaunched today.
Oh, they relaunched today.
That's what I was. Yeah, that was my update.
Oh, I see.
I just saw it on Blue Sky.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for pulling up more of that. It is just crazy to me that this book was even controversial at all. You know that if some fucking Zionist shithead put up a Young in Israel book, it would not be even remotely controversial to Kickstarter, but
yeah. I'm glad they're getting the book out there.
Yeah.
It's 268 pages of comics, so it's a lot of comics for you. And you can buy an ebook, a paperback, you can buy prints. It looks like there's like 10 different tiers of support. So if you're interested in graphic memoirs, especially graphic memoirs from the Swana area, go ahead and check this out.
Excellent. And kind of the last thing I'll talk about was just a little bit of synchronicity, was that both Billy Bat and the art of Charlie Chan Hak-chi talk about this racing comic Tezuka did. I'm trying to find the name of it here. They talk about it very early on. About like how this racing comic was such a thing for like kind of young cartoonists in Asia to see this like early like 1930s or like late 1930s, early 1940s comic by Tezuka that was like just a race car driving down a hill, and the motion, and both comics point to that specific comic. I'll try to find the name of it later, and talk about like that being such like Urasawa and Sonny Liu both talk about that being such like a seminal moment for them through the fiction of their fictional cartoonists. And on that note, Jesse Lonergan released a little graphic novel, 66-page graphic novel. It's closer to 40 actually, with the amount of sketchbook stuff that's in here, called Faster. I will say it's a little pricey at $20. Like, it is a hard sell to get people to check out experiments like this at like $20 for what is like 40 pages of comic. I understand why people do, because this must have been just like an intensive amount of effort to do. But the only kind of reason I bring that up is because it is really fucking cool. It's really, really cool what Lonergan is doing with the page. He's kind of doing some of the most interesting stuff with grids that I've seen from kind of like Western comics in quite some time. Like, the grid is kind of taken for granted for what it's, or for its utility, and like, and sometimes like for, if you're talking about like the works of like Lee Lai or Michael DeForge, they use the grid really well to pare stuff down. But a lot of comics in the West kind of just use the grid because it's like known, it's easy, it's like you just get like a 3x3 whatever, you get your page. Like, Tom King loves it. This feels like it's really doing something with that. It's like having images like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like kind of like images broken up into panels across the page so that like the motion from one page to another can become like a continuous turn. Like, the way that this comic displays motion across its grids and its panels is incredible.
Yeah, super cool.
It's remarkable how like legible this is, both as like a character piece too. It's like there are like 7 characters in this, and though they have only the space to have like a page or two about them at most, I feel like I understand every single one of these guys so well. This page with Cowtown Toupee, and he's just like thinking about every one of his family members having crashing their cars, and Cowtown Toupee, last place, please let me live. I know everything about this guy, and just like these little tiny little panels that are at the top of a much bigger series of racing panels between second and first place. It's a really cool little book. It will take you, if you're really sitting down with it, like 10-15 minutes. It's not a long read. It is a hard sell at the price, but like, it is gorgeous work. And I think Lonergan is doing some of the most interesting stuff with the kind of with the grid that we are seeing in the Western space.
Yeah, he's a really, really solid cartoonist. I kind of hope he gets more work coming down the line. He's doing a Hellboy comic right now, Miss Truesdale with Mignola, which is really fun. For a while, he had some graphic novel work with Image a few years ago that was pretty good. like Planet Paradise and a couple other things, I think. But I feel like he doesn't get a ton of work. I think he's a little bit slept on, but he's just really skilled.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of everything we have to talk about.
Yeah, kind of yeah, I don't think I have anything more to talk about. Oh, actually, I'm not going to talk much about it because I'm still reading it, but The War by Garth Ennis and Becky Cloonan came out this week. I'm still reading it, so I'm not really going to talk about it, but it's, quote, the feel-bad book of the decade, and it sure is so far. Garth Ennis is a really strong character writer when he kind of gets out of his own ass, and this book is very much that. So that is out this week. Check it out if you are interested in reading some like good Garth Ennis, Becky Cloonan, Tom Bonvillain comics. Faster is also out this week as a graphic novel. Otherwise, that's about it for me.
Yay, thanks for listening, y'all. We won't catch you next week because I'll be in Massachusetts next week, but the week after that. See you later.
Bye, everybody. I love you.
Bye.